America, underage drinking amongst adolescents has become somewhat of a social rite of passage, much like getting your driver's license or even applying to college. However, what 70% of teens who drink don't know is that drinking alcohol below the legal age is extremely detrimental to both mental growth and can have lasting damaging effects on one's future.
As adolescent brains continue to grow, they're widely unequipped to handle alcohol's intense effect. A 21-year age limit on alcohol consumption helps to protect developing youth from not only damage to the brain's frontal lobe, but also from the dangers of being under the influence and avoiding the detrimental effects of alcoholism and clinical addiction.
According to David Elkind and Amy Bobrow, there are a number of developmental factors that lead teenagers to rebel and begin abusing alcohol. In adolescence, the prefrontal cortex, or the part of our brain responsible for idea development and decision making, is still developing. This means that there are decreases in the amount of gray matter needed for thoughts and emotions, and increases in the amount of white matter, the tissue connecting those areas of gray matter. However, in the prefrontal cortex, white matter doesn't reach full maturity and density until our late 20s. This deficiency in white matter is ultimately what disables teens from weighing out consequences or resisting impulsive actions. A decrease in dopamine production during puberty also prompts teens to find stimulants and chemicals that excite their brain's pleasure circuits. Peer pressure also plays an important role in the decision to drink. Studies show higher electrical activity in parts of the brain associated with rewards and social reasoning when people make decisions around or in competition with their peers. The chemical hormone epinephrine, or adrenaline, is also secreted when individuals are forced to make decisions in uncomfortable or intimidating situations.
The common denominator amongst all alcoholic beverages is ethyl alcohol, or C2H5OH. The hydroxyl group present on the molecule is what classifies it as an alcohol. When you drink, ethanol travels through your digestive system where it is to be oxidized slowly by the liver. According to Dr. Craig Freudenreich, alcohol dehydrogenases enzymes in the liver remove electrons to form acetaldehyde. From there, aldehyde dehydrogenases, with the help of oxygen, break this down further into acetic acid. When you start to feel drunk, however, is when there is too much ethanol present for the liver to metabolize right away. Therefore, the unmetabolized ethanol is absorbed by the bloodstream in the duodenum of the small intestine, and then carried throughout the body where it can be absorbed by various tissues and dissolved there in water. Neurotransmitters including GABA, glutamate, and dopamine are also at play while you're under the influence. The effects of alcohol on GABA and glutamate are relatively similar. It leads to the suppression of excitatory neurotransmitters and augments the effects of inhibitory ones. This causes slowed speech and movement. Dopamine production, however, increases and excites the brain's pleasure signals. Acting upon the medulla and cerebral cortex, alcohol also induces drowsiness and retards the processing of information from primary sense organs like your eyes and your ears. Secretion of hormones like ADH, antidiuretic hormone, is also inhibited by alcohol, causing the kidneys to reabsorb less water. This dehydration of your blood vessels is what can lead to a hangover the next morning. Alcohol has been proven to have several detrimental effects on the teenage brain, because instead of binding to and changing just one neurological receptor, ethanol molecules can affect and alter nearly all receptors. In addition to small dings and white matter of the prefrontal cortex, denoting poor brain cell communication, another section of the brain, called the hippocampus, has also been proven to be quite sensitive to the effects of alcohol. Studies show that adolescents who begin drinking earlier have decreased performance on memory, attention, and spatial skills tests. With a higher percent of binge drinking amongst teens, the effects are more severe. In cases of binge drinking, there are higher rates of blacking out, leading to memory loss. The more incidences one has with blacking out can have a long-term effect on memory. You go from not being able to remember the night before to not being able to comprehend basic information on a day-to-day basis, or even experiencing a loss in overall attention span and decreased concentration. According to Dr. Swartzwelder, recurring exposure to alcohol during adolescence could begin a cycle of oversensitivity to the chemical when it comes to learning and memory. This can extend far into the future. The ability to form new memories and continue learning becomes increasingly difficult. We see this in a study performed on a young alcoholic, now 8 years sober, Torin Volkmann. In the sense of long-term neurological effects, unexpected problems could be the result of either brain cells being killed or by the chemical depressant changing the course of brain development during the crucial years of growth. Drinking from an early age increases one's chances of developing a clinical dependence to alcohol. Prolonged exposure to alcohol causes our brains to adapt to the short-term effects of intoxication, resulting in a gradual desensitization. In an attempt to return to normal under abnormal conditions, these same neurotransmitters begin to change in an effort to exert more normal brain function while under the influence. For example, if you've been regularly drinking since age 13, by the time you reach adulthood, your brain easily adapts to the effects of 3 drinks. Instead of reaching a state of excitement and disorientation that is normal, you may only start to feel a slight buzz. Therefore, many alcoholics often drink more to compensate, only faster approaching the deadly 0.5 blood alcohol concentration levels. On the other hand, depending on how your brain works, some people crave the way that alcohol makes them feel. Teens are especially susceptible to these cravings and are the most at risk for falling into bad habits. This vulnerability is due to the low dopamine levels, weak decision-making skills, and strong desires to exploit pleasure outlets. Although alcohol is a poisonous substance for anyone who decides to drink, underage teens are most at risk. In addition to being the most vulnerable to fall into bad drinking habits, they are also the ones who face the most severe effects. Therefore, in order to avoid premature brain damage, the consequences of poor decisions, and developing alcohol dependence, the legal drinking limit should remain at 21 years old.
Rivers all wet, you're all cold.